Coronavirus cases continue to surge in the United States, which is something that Trump should take ownership of since it is squarely his failure. But instead of taking responsibility, he's decided to point fingers at a country that's actually done extremely well in responding to coronavirus, and that's New Zealand. His latest attack is against New Zealand, a country that recorded just 9 new cases of coronavirus on Monday. Let's hear what he had to say.
The places that they were using to hold up, they're having a big surge. They're having and I don't want that, but they were holding up names of countries and now they're saying, whoops. In fact, even New Zealand, you see what's going on in New Zealand. They beat it. It was like front page, they beat it because they wanted to show me something. The problem is big surge in New Zealand. So, it's terrible. We don't want that.
Now, of course, there is not a big surge in New Zealand. I mean, you could maybe technically refer to it as a big surge when you consider the several months New Zealand went without recording a single case of coronavirus. So if you consider 0 cases going to 9 cases, yeah, I guess big surge. But let's do some numbers. Let's look at the numbers and see where the United States is and where New Zealand, which is led by a competent person, is with coronavirus cases and deaths. So New Zealand, as I mentioned earlier, recorded just 9 new cases on Monday of this week. On Tuesday, 13 more were reported. The United States, where at least 173,000 people have died, has recently averaged around 50,000 new cases each day. Now, of course, the United States is a much bigger country. The population of New Zealand is around 5 million people. But even if you look at the numbers per capita, the United States is far worse than New Zealand. And guess what? The second they started recording new cases, they decided to shut things down again. That's what happens in, countries that are led by competent people with a competent electorate anyway. So the United States has just 4% of the world's population, by the way, but about 1/4 of global cases. So that's where the United States is. New Zealand has had just 22 total COVID-19 deaths. Until last week, the island nation went 102 days without recording a new coronavirus case. And by the way, let me just note that the United States has about 5.5 million confirmed cases of coronavirus. And yes, that number is likely to be an underestimate because there are plenty of people who haven't gotten tested but have the virus or didn't feel comfortable going to the doctor's office if they suspected they had the virus. There had been some stories about certain states suppressing the actual numbers of coronavirus cases as well. Florida being one of them because of course, Florida. And let's go to the Prime Minister of New Zealand to hear what she has to say. This is Jacinda Ardern.
Obviously, I don't think there's any comparison between New Zealand's current cluster and the tens of thousands of cases that are being seen daily in the United States. Obviously, every country is experiencing its own fight with COVID-19. It is a tricky virus, but not one where I would compare New Zealand's current status to the United States. Look, I think for anyone who's following COVID and its transmission globally, will quite easily see that New Zealand's 9 cases in a day does not compare to the United States' tens of thousands, and in fact does not compare to most countries in the real world. I'm not concerned about people misinterpreting our status.
There has never been a time in my life where I've been more embarrassed to be an American. I am embarrassed to be an American. This is embarrassing. Cenk, what do you think?
Yeah, so all right, let's do compare and contrast. So first thing that right wingers are gonna say, because they think they're smart, Ben Shapiro told me that you're supposed to do it per capita. I don't know what that means, but I think you're supposed to do it. All right, no problem, let's do it that way, okay, and I agree. So New Zealand has only about 5 million people. We have about 330 million people. So we're 66 times larger than New Zealand. So let's keep it in perspective. So they have had 22 deaths. So you got to multiply that by 66. 22 seems like a really low number. But when you multiply it by 66, it's 1,452 deaths if they had the same population as us. How many deaths have we had so far? We're almost at 175,000 deaths. 1,452 is substantially lower than 175,000. Okay, now I also did the same math when it comes to their new raging cases. Well, it's true that if you're jumping from 0 cases for 102 days straight to 9 cases, hey, wow, look at that. It really did pop up a lot, didn't it? But 9 times 66 is 858 cases if they were the size of America. How many cases do we have, as Anna just read to you? We have average around 50,000 cases every single day. So 858 is substantially lower than 50,000 cases. You know what that shows you? That shows you that Donald Trump has epic incompetence, and he just didn't do this right at all. The countries like New Zealand, and yes, even China and South Korea and Germany that did they did a couple of things that are super important, but 2 that really, really jump out. Number 1, everybody put on masks right away. There was no idiots going around, it's the freedom to get coronavirus and spread it into my ears, right? There was none of that garbage in smart countries because they don't have right-wing lunatics like to the degree that we do, and they wouldn't tolerate it. Look, China's got a lot of downsides and they're authoritarian, but one of the things was, yeah, you're gonna go outside in Wuhan when we're doing a lockdown? No, you're not. Are you gonna go outside without a mask? No. Not only do they arrest everybody outside who wasn't supposed to be outside at the height of their lockdown. I'm not saying we go that far, but this is how you take things seriously. Now, there was somebody that once didn't wear a mask while jogging outside. There was a foreigner. I think it was Australian or something. They kicked her out of the country immediately, evicted her from the country. Okay, so no, we're not dealing with that crap. So New Zealand, the second thing that they did was testing. Unbelievable amount of tests, okay? Now, we didn't do either one of those things. We had a leader who went like this, and
we're number 1.
We're number 1, idiot that he is. So, but look, his main point was, I gotta reopen the economy because the stock market's gonna drive whether I win re-election. And I don't care how many of you die, I just wanna win re-election. But you moron, we could have reopened the economy like all these other countries did months ago if you just done the masks and the testing earlier. So look, guys, I know a lot of folks don't know anything about the news, don't follow the news, and they just generally look at Trump and they go, I'm a Republican, he's a Republican, he hates brown people, I hate brown people. Let's move on, I'm voting for him. I got it, right? But if you know even 10% about what Trump has done, and you're proud of him, and you're proud of our 175,000 deaths, we lead the world in deaths, you're proud that we bungled this worse than Rwanda and Tajikistan, and literally every country in the world. Well, look, then you're proud of being a moron, and I don't want anything to do with you. So go and just, I can't stand that they walk amongst us, these idiots who ruined it for this country.
And look, of course, the worst part is that people who did not need to lose their lives during this pandemic have died, right? I gave you the numbers, it's a little over 173,000 people at this point. And the number is definitely likely to increase, especially when we're recording on average 50,000 new coronavirus cases each day. But I mean, for people who aren't persuaded by saving lives and you're only thinking about yourself and your individualism and how you just want to go out and have a good time. Sometimes, I mean, this is supposed to be American culture. It's really not, right? But American culture is supposed to indicate that if you work really hard, if you do what you need to do in the short term, that in the future, you can have a good time or you can get what you want, right? So in Wuhan, China, what are they doing right now? And look, let me just preface this by saying I'm not 100% trusting of the news coming out of Wuhan, China, but there are some images showing what the young people in Wuhan are doing right now. And here's a perfect example. Here's the Wuhan Maya Beach water park where people are water parking. They're having a good time. And so apparently, China has combated the virus, according to what we're seeing with our own eyes, with all these like massive parties and stuff. They've combated the virus to the point where people are comfortable going out, people are having a good time. Doesn't seem to be a giant issue, right? Again, massive caveat, there is some potential that China isn't being 100% honest with us here. But yeah, if you look at the images, they're just at crowded pool parties, and China took the virus seriously once they acknowledged the virus exists. So I don't really see them doing something as counterproductive as allowing like massive water park parties to happen if people are still spreading that virus in their country.
So Trump, every once in a while, we love tests. Always take what the Chinese government says with a grain of salt. I know I don't trust that they're being perfectly honest. Of course not. But there are real facts coming out of there from time to time. And one thing that is undeniable is there's no way that authoritarian Chinese government is going to allow for a massive pool party with thousands of people in Wuhan if they think there's an outbreak. They'd rather send everyone there to a gulag than let them go to a party like that. So they have not had cases in Wuhan for a long time. You know how many tests they did in the beginning in just that province? 6.5 million. That was like 6 months ago. 6.5 million in one province. Donald Trump's like, we're doing a lot of testing. We have a lot of cases because we do a lot of testing. No, we're not doing nearly enough testing, and we have massive cases because you took none of the right precautions. Right now, we could be like people, these right wingers have it convinced in their head because of idiots like Tucker Carlson and Trump that the left wing somehow likes to be locked up in their house and doesn't want to go to restaurants and go into pools in the middle of the summer. No, we all want that. We all want a good economy. We all want our businesses to flourish, right? And we're trying to tell you, right wingers, you can get there quicker if you follow science. But if you're an idiot, it's gonna take way longer and a lot more people are gonna die. I'm gonna go to Ashkan, one of our members. He said, Cenk, the population of America is to blame for as well for being science deniers. In New Zealand, my guess is their population is probably more rational. This shows America is dumb. Let me explain one quick thing about that. I don't accept that for the whole country, but there's the right wing in this country, there's right wing in every country, right? They're more traditionalist, more in favor of the status quo. They don't want things to change. That's why they're conservative. And hence they stick to wrong heritage and wrong traditions throughout the world in all these different countries for conservatives. But in America, Fox News has built a culture of stupidity where they celebrate their stupidity. So I don't know the right wing in New Zealand or South Korea nearly as well, but I would be shocked if their right wing says, no, you should not believe in science. 2 + 2 does not equal 4. You don't have to wear masks. There is no such thing as evolution, and there is no such thing as climate change. No, that is unique to America. America's right wing has chosen stupidity, and they built a culture around it. So we shouldn't be surprised that about 35% of this country is off their rocker, and that's why we've become a third world country that has done far worse than literally every country on the planet in dealing with coronavirus cases. By the way, I love Ashkan's comment and all of your comments, and if you want to be a member, get your comments read on the air, tyt.com/join.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.